Yo, what is up guys? It is Pringles here. Today, coming at you with my first tier list. And this is going to be a dual tier list. Pretty much, I just want to explain my tier list, explain the reasoning why. I've been GMing Duel since like Season 3. And I've been GMing Joust since like Season 3. And GMing Conquest, of course. So I have a very well-rounded opinion of like how each god works. So even though like gods like Thor aren't popular in Duel, or like gods like Ymir aren't popular in Duel, I can give you like a very accurate placement of where they are. So first thing you'll notice is this isn't traditional like S plus, S minus, A, B tier list, because Duel is very matchup oriented, right? So you could pick like, let's say, a really good hunter. Like let's say you pick like Scotty, right? But just because she's a top hunter does not mean she's instantly going to win the game, even though she's like a ban-worthy hunter, right? She could still get railed by someone like Osiris or Erlang, etc., etc. So that's pretty much the main reason I did it by top hunters, top melees, top mages. So if you like main a specific role, and that's what I recommend you do, is you start like maining a role, or just like pick really good characters that you enjoy from these roles. So we'll start from the hunters. Anhur, it's kind of a no-brainer. He's really safe, so he deserves to be here. Does lots of damage. His ult does like 80% of someone's health. Cern's really safe. Cern ultimate is a good zoning tool for melees, and it's a good killing tool. It makes you almost want to get beads. Like if you Cern ults literally like a Chronos, even though a Chronos late game will outbox you with autos, if you just like get this when his ult's down, right? Or let's say you hit a Poseidon or Vulcan, they can't hit you or use mage abilities for like 2 seconds. So you could just dash on them and just auto them, and it's like hard winning. Oh, and another thing before I go forward. So let's say we take 3 OP guys like Uller, Anhur, Hou Yi. They're on their own level. Like they're really OP. Same thing with Heim. Heim is really OP. So like a god like Cern is not necessarily just as good as a god like Uller. But the reason why I put a lot of these top hunters here is because after banning phase, I still want you guys to know these hunters are very playable. You can get the GM playing these hunters, and they're competitively viable. So just because some like a character's here does not mean they're of the same power rank. This isn't your traditional, right? If I did traditional, Uller would be SS, Anhur would be just below probably, and then Hou Yi would be like next to Anhur, and then like you can go further down, like Cupid would be lower, like Cern and Cherno would be lower. But in general, these hunters, they have good matchups in Duel. Like Cern, good matchups into melees, and good matchups into backline, like mages, hunters. So here I picked very well-rounded characters at the top that don't have too many bad matchups, right? Because the whole thing Duel is very matchup-based, right? Like I said in the beginning. So characters like Anubis, shit matchups. That's why they're not high. AMC is known to be annoying, known to be a great character. He is still good in specific matchups, but if he has so many bad matchups into like, let's say Baka, Bellona, Nem, Osiris, Amana, like all these melees just run at him, and then even the backline he has bad matchups into. Poseidon just Whirlpool Krakens. Hebo could just pretty much kill him. Hou Yi just ults him. Heim just ults him. Cupid just ults him. Like Anhur just ults him. So like all these matchups are bad. So that's why I put him in the almost never optimal / flawed gods. These gods have glaring flaws that just don't let them have a chance to be near the top, right? So Persephone, this character is a little closer towards the top. She's very good, but the thing that like puts her a little further down is there's just characters that have good matchups, like melees with CC immune ults, just farm her. Like Vamana could just run at her. Set just runs her down. Ravana, like even like there's just like see like these niche hard read counterpick gods. I'll explain this role too, or this tier. So this tier is mainly for counter picking. So they're very hit or miss. And Duel is blind pick. So let's say you have like someone picks Hebo. At a very low rank, Fenrir just stomps Hebo. Or let's say they pick like a Baka. Sometimes you see Face, another good Duel player. He'll pick Kama, and he'll just ult whenever Kama ults. Or let's see, like you just have Ymir. Ymir has good matchups into a lot of the melee gods. So like gods like Erlang, it's just very difficult because the Ymir passive and Ymir can get Ring of Hecate. So it could just be very difficult. So this is like your niche hard read. Like if you know someone mains a certain character and you want to like counter pick them, that's what these gods are made for. Ravana has a good chance at shitting on like Poseidon. He just roots the Poseidon. He could alter to the Kraken. The one slow, so you could stick to the Poseidon. It's just overall a great matchup. So that's why this tier is here. It's not the best idea to pick these gods every single game because you will get bad matchups, right? Like matchups you're gonna lose and stuff. So don't always pick these gods. And then this is the lower tier. Probably shouldn't ever pick this. So you have Agni, Output, like all these characters, most of them are guardians. You probably just shouldn't pick them at all because it's blind pick and they have a lot of bad matchups. Like these flawed gods have a good amount of good matchups. Like you could probably pick Medusa or Merlin or let's see here, Susano or Pele or let's say like AMC, right? In some games, they have a place. Like almost all these gods have like a decent time where they could shine, but these gods, there's just like they're never optimal. Like in what scenario is like Artemis the best hunter, right? You would just rather pick any of these hunters. Like when is the time when Kumba or like Kukulkan, right? So these guys just have really big flaws. They're usually really bad in blind pick. They're not really competitively viable. So yeah. So I would stick away from like maining these characters because you're not gonna have a good ranked or a good like competitive experience if you join tournaments. It's usually a good idea to stay away from these gods. And then I can go through like every one of the top tier characters of these top 3 and just explain why they're there. But I feel like most of you are gonna have questions about why these characters are here. So I already explained AMC. He's here because he has bad matchups into the melees. Anubis, same thing. He just has bad matchups. Like half the warriors just pop thorns and build anti-heal. Same thing with hunters, and they just kill the Anubis. Anubis is mainly like lifesteal cheese, but that falls off, you know. Achilles, just not a good warrior, or he is good, but he's not as good as the top because he doesn't have like as good steroids. Like Erlang 1 is crazy, right? Bologna, ults, Bologna 1, Bologna disarm, just crazy for boxing. Like all these characters just have great things for 1v1s. Achilles, not so much. Like you could keep away. Like a lot of the hunters will definitively beat him. And a lot of the melees will actually beat them, even though he has a great ult. Apollo, he just loses a lot of backline matchups. Like there's not a lot to say. Like all these hunters just have better steroids or better ability damage. Like Honor just ults him or impales him, dies. I could just name like all the bad matchups. Like his backline game isn't crazy, but he has better matchups until the melees because his 2's a miss. Arachne, same thing, can lose to backline or frontline like Bologna, Kali, etc., etc. Probably Set too. It's probably not so fun. Chuck, he's good into hunters, but not as good as the other melees. Chiron doesn't do enough damage. His ult's really cool though. Kukulkan, more of like a snowball god. Gets like loses to a lot of the hunters and a lot of the melees. Like I said, a lot of these gods that like are here, they're just not as good as their counterparts, which are here. Gods here usually have like fewer flaws or fewer bad matchups. These gods are missing something. Ooh, this is a popular one. Freya, her early game is really bad. That's why she's here. If you could get her to late, she's as good as pretty much any hunter or like any mage. But the problem is getting there. Like the whole cast just snowballs on her. All the hunters could rush Ikoval. She can't box. They could rush anti-heal. The melees just rush like defense and thorns and just run at you, ooga booga, like Osiris ults or just like Osiris 2-1, set cheese. They could just run at you with beads. Erlang, like all those guys just can snowball. But if she gets to late, she could easily just destroy an Erlang if she gets to late because her autos are going to be hitting so much harder. Hachi, he's really safe, but not enough kill potential against some melees. And his steroid's not as good as these guys. Hera, she can get caught out. Plus, she can get oboed. Like Argus has no HP early, and then late game, you just use it as like Aussie lifesteal or oboe. It's popular. Medusa, her dash gets caught. Yanis, not enough damage. Hunbat's ult, he's really bad without his ult. Merlin gets destroyed by thorns. Neath just backflips really bad. Gets outboxed by all the hunters. Gets ran at by the melees. The melees just chase her down, right? Oleron. Oh my god, this is everyone's gonna be asking about Oleron. Why is he flawed / never optimal? Because his ult is literally on like 120-second cooldown. Of course it goes down as you level it. And then even late game, like his early game's not the best because like a lot of the hunters could rush Ikoval and just like kill him before he even gets crit chance online. Or like on her will ult, blah blah blah. But then even late game, he loses matchups like Freya. Freya's not getting outboxed by like a Hou-Yi most times. It's possible. Freya's not getting outboxed by, let's say, on her. Like per auto and DPS per auto, like Freya's gonna win. Oleron could literally still get outboxed unless he crits. Like it's RNG dependent, and his ult doesn't even confirm stuff because you could just jump away or like on her CC immune ult away, and the melee's just end. So it's just not enough. Like even late game, he even loses matchups. Like how do you lose early game and then you also lose late game? That's so bad to lose early game to hunters and then late game to hunters. So that's why he's down here. He has some decent matchups against like certain melees, but it's just not good. Not good to have a blind pick and then lose to one of the best classes in Duel. Pele loses to like every hunter. Not every, but like all the top tier hunters she loses to. All the melees, like warriors, like Vamana, Erlang, don't give a fuck. They just beat Pele. Raijin is thinking it's CC'd. Ansel could fuck over his one. Late game he does a lot of damage, but early game he doesn't really do insane amounts of damage. He also stands still when he ults, so you get a free Kraken, free Hebo ult, free Vulcan ult. You could Morgan one stun him, like top gods just beat him. Melees rush him down. Ravana could fucking 3-1 ult on him when he starts ulting Ravana 2s. Like all the top tier gods or even like the niche counterpick gods just destroy Raijin. It's really bad. Rama, he has a good steroid, good late game. His early game's not the best. Loses to some hunters just because his 2 is attack speed. His 1 is good for boxing, but he's iffy, right? Because you need to hit your ults, and then even then sometimes you could lose. Like they just wait there, if that makes sense. So let's say you start ulting, and then the Vamana could just run around in circles, or Cyrus. Like his main problem is the melees. Into the backline, he actually has decent matchups. Because he's 2, and like late game he could win. But it's mainly literally the melees just rushing him down. Like his dash isn't far enough. They could just blink, and then he dashes away, and then they 1 on him, and then he just dies. Like Blink Thorns is really good into him. He can go up in the air when you Thorns, but then you could just do so much damage that the fight is hard winning. Scylla, really safe, but you have to hit all your stuff. And she can get snowballed on really hard. Because if you miss, even though she's really safe and she could just back up, she could still get rushed down by melees too. So like, if you get like Erendite and like a mate like Erendite and like Osiris ult or like Erling ult or Bellona or like all the melees, Ravana destroys her. Even weird assassins like Susano. Pele probably could do it. It'd just be weird. But yeah, she can get rushed down really hard, but she's still really safe and she still does a lot of damage. And late game, she's really obnoxious because if she hits a 1-2, you just die or you're poked out to the point where you're not fighting her, right? So, Sol, she's just weird, man. Like, she kind of gets outboxed by hunters because of Ichabod, and then late game she has Telkine, so she could keep up with hunters. Just like Kronos can keep up with hunters. But the reason why she's down here is because her 3 can get baited out easy, and even if you don't bait it out, it's just like something is missing. It's hard to describe, but every time I play her, I feel like you don't do enough damage. Like Ichabod still fucks you hard, so you can't box hunters till you get like 5 items or 4 items. Nah, I think you need 5. You can't box hunters till you get 5, and then late game you still lose to a lot of them. You still lose to Uller, you still lose to Yi, you still lose to on her. I think CERN you probably lose to. Cherno you lose to, I'm pretty sure. A lot of the melees kind of just abuse you too. Like they can kill you before you enter bubble state or put you very low. She's just missing something. She's missing oomph. Like she has a well-rounded kick, she has a heal, she has wave clear, she has CC me an ult that does good damage. It's just she's not played because she's missing something. And I think that something is damage. Because every time I play her, like late game Kronos autos hit harder, Freya autos hit harder, Hou-Yi too. Like she's just missing something. Plus her damage isn't confirmed. Like her 2 ult is not confirmed. Like you don't even get the ult sometimes. You also have to hit the 2. So yeah, she's just missing a little bit of damage. Otherwise she would be a top mage easily. She's borderline. She's like there. Pretty much like Persephone. Persephone's almost there. Sol's almost there too. You could probably get away with her. I just didn't put her there because she's missing just a little bit of damage, I think. At least like towards the early game. Towards the late game, it's definitely very good. Like 5-6 items. But you don't want to lose the game before. Yeah. Wukong. He doesn't have a steroid, man. Most of the duels like attack speed even if you're a melee. So you're just missing like auto damage or like steroid. Susano, he has a little burst damage, but sometimes that's not enough. And he loses to a lot of hunters. And he doesn't have a CC immune ult. He's good into some mages, like for instance, you could probably beat like a Vulcan. Decent chance into a Morrigan. You have a decent, not insane, with Erendite, Susano. Decent chance into Poseidon, but you should still lose that. So he just has decent matchups into mages, but like all the hunters he loses to, and all the warriors and a lot of the melees you lose to, because Baka just straight up ults and autos and jumps over your ult or jumps over something. Erlang just heals and just does too much damage with his autos, too tanky. Osiris is too tanky to kill. So like Susanna's main concern is like the bad matchups he has. Just like most of these gods. Terra's a guardian, Faf's a guardian. Song can't go over walls, has no escape. So hunters just eat him alive and can kite him forever. Literally just outtrade him. Non-CC immune ult, so he even loses against some mages like Hebo. You'll probably lose to a Vulcan. Probably lose to Poseidon. Definitely should lose to Kronos. But yeah, it's just really weird. Not enough lockdown. If he had more lockdown, like he can't jump over walls, so he just has inherently bad matchups. He's really tanky though. Persephone, she gets rushed down, like I said earlier. Vamana ult, Cyrus ult. Just, a lot of the melees just beads and rush her down, or they just CC immune ult. Same thing with the hunters. They could just sprint, CC immune like on her ult, and her ult's just not as deadly. And she's getting nerfed next patch too. Okay. Go back towards the top. It's a long video, but I'm trying to be very thorough. Like, if you guys have more questions, I'll answer them in the comment section below. Just drop them. If there's anything I could do better, let me know. But yeah, let's just finish up. Be a little less long-winded. All these melees are just OP because the warriors are either too tanky or they do too much damage and they're too tanky. Like Osiris does too much damage and he's too tanky. Like, their tankiness to damage ratio is too high. The other characters are kind of just like cheesy, like Set. Like, holy fuck, just like so easy to play and just has too much in his kit, and his ult's too good, his 3's too good, and his 1 poke's so hard. Nem, you just read her abilities. If you read her ult, read her 3, read her passive, she could have 3 abilities and a passive and she'd still be OP. Like, character is just crazy. Late game, she outboxes like everyone. I think if you get beads, you could probably kill a Bellona too if you ult and play the fight right. Really crazy late game. Loses to Kali really hard. And then don't really need to explain Kali. Erling's out here because Snowball and Lockdown's crazy. His 2 is a root, and then his 3 is a dash, and his ult is a taunt. So it's just a bunch of CC. So let's say you could dash at someone, and if they dash away, you root them, and then you chase them. Or you could just ult someone, they dash away, then you 2 and 3 into them. Like, it's just too much, like, lockdown, right? And it could be a lot for people to deal with. So you just lose a lot of matchups because of that. Because, like, the backlines can't get away. Okay, and I'll go over the hunter ones because you guys are probably going to have questions about the hunters. Everyone knows your typical top tier hunters. You have Anhur, Houyi, Uller, and Scotty. Scotty's up here because she beats pretty much every hunter because her dog is like 10 block stacks. Abilities are really easy to hit. Dog's impossible to miss. Scotty's up here. Everyone knows Uller. Houyi's here because his 2. One of the best hunter steroids. His 1 stuns. Ult is huge that slows. So we'll go over the like more hunters that are a little less popular. The reason why Iza's up here is because Iza 1 is like 75% attack speed. It's something crazy. Also, her ult is a silence, and that silence does a lot of damage, lots of scaling. And the reason it's OP is because you can't pop thorns when you're CC'd, and you can't use your shell or bracer. So if you land your Iza ult early on in a fight, you could almost beat any hunter. A lot of the mages, because the mages can't use their whole kit, right, if they're silenced. So it could be very scary if you land that ultimate. And she snowballs really hard because she takes towers really fast, and she clears with her autos. So she's really top tier in Duel. Then we'll go Heim. Heim's up here because his 3 is busted. And another huge thing is, if you want to kill him, you need beads. So the melees have to go beads thorns or beads shell. And it's fucking awkward. Because if you go beads thorns, then if your beads are down and you thorns, I'm just going to ult your thorns. And now your thorns is gone. And that's like so much freedom and relief from hunters. And then also his 3's OP. You could just teleport from mid-wave to tower and no one could chase you. Unless you're like fucking Susano 3 or something. But just super safe. Like ADC just runs away. It's mainly the melees that he punishes. And then also gods without CC immune ults. So like characters like Poseidon, he could sometimes beat. Characters like Vulcan, he should beat. Characters like AMC, he hard beats, right? You just ult, get their beats, 3 away, and they come back. Next fight, you hard win. Because if you land your ult, it's like over like 1,000+ damage late game. Like with your ult 1 combo, like autos. So he's really high up there. Cupid's here because he has a well-rounded kit. And if you notice, CC is very important with hunters. So he has a stun. You can get a stun off creeps. He also has his ultimate is really good. It's a mesmerize. This mez can destroy thorns, because if you don't pop thorns before the mez, he autos, and if you pop it like after, like the mez is over, he could just dash away, and it could be really, really awkward. So you kind of want to get beads or like sprint or something against Cupid. So it's kind of like the Heim issue. He's like a worse Heim, but he still has better matchups, like characters without CC immune ults, like Vulcan or like Poseidon. He just forces beads or sprint, like forces relics, and then he just kills them again. You could do that to a lot of the hunters too, like Hou-Yi, like late game Cupid could actually almost beat late game Uller, because if you get the beads off of the Uller, the Uller's either going beads thorns or he's going like bead shell or something, right? So you just like you Cupid ult and you could pretty much kill and beat Uller in that matchup. So he just has good matchups against a lot of the top tier gods, and that's very, very nice. He should be towards the flawed region, but I put him here because his matchups are good and I've been very successful with him. I do want to test more, like this, my opinion may change. I want to play against better players that play Set and that play Erlang and shit like that. So I just want to test his matchups into melees mainly, because I already know he wins the backline matchups. Like, you're going to lose to Hebo because Hebo has slow immunity on his 2. Hell could cleanse, so you could probably lose to Hell. Kronos just ults, so late game Kronos beats you for the most part. But yeah, and like a lot of the hunters could beat you like on her. But very, very good character. Has really good matchups into the high tiers, like I said. I just have to test the melees. Like, I'm pretty sure he gets railed by like Kali and Osiris he probably gets railed by. Maybe Set. Definitely Bologna. I think Bologna will shit on him. Pretty sure Ravana will shit on him too. But I just gotta test those. Lastly, Chernobog. Chernobog's at Pier. He's crazy. Absolutely crazy. His 2 is a really good steroid. It's literally just as good as a Rama 2. He also has a root. It could be hard to hit, so you could use it like a zoning tool. 1 your feet. If they come close to it, you just 2 it. If they don't, like, you could just play Ring Around the Rosie, or just like keep walking 3 or 1. And if they chase you, you just 2 them. His 3 is nuts because it's just like Heim 3, where if they pop thorns, Heim 3 away. You just run away. If they pop thorns, just Cherno 3 into a wall, man, and you just like live thorns. Like, if Nem ults you, just Cherno 3 into a wall, man. If Amana ults you, Set ult, you could really stall, right? After you get out, you could ult, and he gets damage mitigations, slows the enemy god. It's just an insane ult, right? And he could land, he gets reset of cooldowns. You could just go into the wall again, man. Like, really, really clean character. Doesn't mean he's impossible to beat. He still loses to On Her. He still loses to... Pretty sure he still loses to Hou-Yi, because Hou-Yi 2 is broken. Still loses to Uller for sure. Like, a lot of the top tiers he could still lose to. Poseidon still could just 3, and then if it ticks, he just ults. But late game Cherno actually is a good matchup, or like a decent matchup with the Poseidon, because you just ult and you sprint, and you could actually stay on the Poseidon with Sprint Frostbound. It's very nice. Same thing with Vulcan. You could just stay on him. You could potentially immune like a fucking Kronos 3 or a Hebo ult, whatever. You get the point. Like, if you play with his kit well, you could definitely get a lot of value from running away from melees, which in turn will kill them, because his ult has good rush down. And then CERN, passive's crazy. If you stand right on top of him, like all the melees, you're just going to auto harder. So you could just outbox Erlang. You turn them into like a fish, polymorph them with your ult, which beats melees, which almost wants them to get beads, like almost like inclines them to get beads. But if they don't, it's just like really good. You can't pop thorns either while you're polymorphed. So if they don't pop thorns before your ult goes off, you just get free autos. So that's really nice. But yeah, his one's also pretty good because his one you could get Proshred or Lifesteal, so or slow. Like if you needed to slow against like a Poseidon or like a Vulcan, like a very fast character, you could do it. So yeah, just solid. So all these hunters good, melee's good, mages are good. Like I said, just because Cherno is in the same tier as Uller doesn't mean Cherno is just as good as Uller. Uller's way better than Chernobog. But after bans and taking into account their matchups, because those are very matchup based, this is a pretty accurate representation of stuff you could play. I'd stick with the top picks, and then there's some flawed gods that you could still use to get the GM, but they're usually just not as optimal, right? Like all these gods just they're just not as good as the other characters in their respective roles. Like Pele's not the best melee. Chiron's not the best. Chiron or Medusa aren't the best hunters. So yep. I think that'll conclude it. Holy shit, 31 minutes. But yeah, that's my tier list, everyone. Hope you guys enjoyed. Like I said, leave some comments if I wasn't thorough enough, because that's my whole concern. I didn't want to just like lazy make a video. So drop some comments if I didn't answer your questions. And that's it, folks.